Good afternoon, everybody. This is Kari Cannon from CDSS. Thank you for joining us this afternoon on the CANS technical assistance call. Thank you for your patience. We were experiencing some technical difficulties, but I think that we have those resolved. So thank you very much for your patience. We are about ready to get started, so if you'll give us just one more moment, we will do some introductions here in the room. As I said, I am Kari Cannon from CDSS, and good afternoon, I'm Lisa Witchy with the CDSS in the Resource Development Training Support Bureau.
Hi, good afternoon. This is Leslie Beltran with CDSS Integrated Services Unit.
This is Mary Shepard with CDSS, our Child Protection and Family Support Branch.
And we also have Janine LaSour and Rebecca Buckmiller with Integrated Services. And do we have anybody on the, I think we have our friends on the phone from DHCS, I believe, are joining us as well. Okay, we'll let them introduce themselves when they are able. I believe we have the Parade Foundation, April Fernando, on the line. April, are you able to introduce yourself?
I'm here.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you. So we're going to go ahead and get started with some of our frequently asked questions and share some updates with you today. So the first item that we wanted to share information about is our CANS information sheet.
Okay, great. This is Janine, and we've been receiving a lot of inquiries around the status of our CANS information sheets for youth and caregivers that's under development. We met with a group of youth from the Youth Engagement Project who provided their input and suggestions. And next, the document is going to be reviewed by the CFT CANS implementation work group. From there, we'll announce on the CANS call when it's released. And it will be made available on our CFT website CANS page. And again, we want to encourage you to look at our CFT website page on the CDSS website. It provides CFT and CANS information, as well as links to the latest policy letters, resources, along with some helpful videos. And we're adding to it all of the time, so please check it out. We'll share the address on the screen at the end of the webinar.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Janine. For those of you who are not familiar, those CANS information sheets are for use in the context of a child and family team to help introduce what the CANS is and how it is useful as a communication integration tool to help support shared decision-making and case planning. So we look forward to having those documents to share with you in the future. While I'm speaking about CFTs, I did want to just provide a quick update on the Child and Family Team implementation team. The team, as you know from our previous calls, has been meeting monthly since November and has the purpose of supporting quality implementation and practice of child and family teaming across the state. And we're working on supporting the framework of the integrated core practice model and aligning the other practices that are used within the county, such as safety organized practice and tools such as the CANS and assessments like structured decision-making tools. The implementation team is identified priority areas of focus. And I hear a bit of background noise. If you are not speaking, if you would put yourself on mute. Thank you for putting yourself on mute, not hold, mute. So the implementation team has identified a few areas of priority to focus on initially. The first being workforce development and training, and the second being communication and messaging. So there are two work groups that are formed to focus on those areas. The workforce development and training group is focusing on identifying the values in the integrated core practice model, and also the knowledge, skills, and abilities for CANs, so that we can develop CANs training for supervisors and for staff within child welfare, behavioral health, and others, and to support case planning with CANs. So we're making good progress with that. We do anticipate having some formalized documents by the end of February that will inform the curriculum that can be developed from there. And then we're also working on identifying tools and strategies to support workforce development, such as coaching and learning collaboratives. On the communication and messaging front, the implementation team has identified really the importance of explaining the how and the why behind child and family team practice and the purpose and intent and use of the CANs as a communication tool. And so we're working on developing messaging that can be used by county leadership and can support staff in their understanding and practice and integration of those practices and tools. That work continues, and at this point we don't have a timeline for the release of documents, though we will provide an update on that work during our subsequent calls. And with that, another frequently asked question that we'd like to address is the technical difference regarding the layout of the CANs. So it's come to our attention that there is a numbering difference between the child welfare integrated practice CANs and the core 50 CANs that has been adopted by the Department of Healthcare Services.
And so, April, I think you wanted to provide some input and feedback on that with regards to some of the items that were out of order between the CANs 50 and the CANs IP. I think she referred to the anger control and the substance use.
Yes. So the anger control and substance use items, which are in the behavioral emotional needs domain, the very first section of the CANs, are in a different order. So I think the easiest solution is to change the order on the child welfare version, the IP CANs, to match the CANs 50. So we can get that done fairly quickly. That's going to have to be changed in CARES as well.
Yeah, thank you, April, for sharing that. When that was brought to our attention, we have had some preliminary conversations with our child welfare digital services folks who are leading the development of the CANs automated tool. So we are exploring how to make that correction and whether it's possible to include that in the next release of the CANs automated tool.
Yes,
but
this
agree
is
with
Melcher
you.
Sanchez.
Oh.
Hi, product owner for CANs at CWDS. Just wanted to mention, yes, based on the communications about this just yesterday, and us also being at a point where we're identifying scope for our next CANs release, this is something that we can incorporate in our next CANs release.
Great.
So it wouldn't be the one that's this week, of course, but the one afterwards.
Right.
Okay, so we've also received other questions with how to edit the CANs or provide additional items to the CANs. And for these edits and changes, April has said to go ahead and reach out to either April or Andrea Ocampo at the Parade Foundation. And I don't think that we included their emails on this, but April's email is afernando@cheapenhall.org.
And Leslie, would you be able to provide a little bit more context about what the question was asking with regard to editing the CAMs?
So they didn't provide too much information, but I think it's maybe like adding
additional items?
Yeah, items.
CAMs.
So when I spoke to April, she said that it would probably have to go through them, and the counties can go ahead and reach out to them.
Great.
For if they want to make any changes or edits.
Yeah. And if I can provide just some background, it's really not a control issue. It's really about wanting to make sure we can get you pointed in the right direction as to which items would best suit what you're looking for. We have a lot of items, and just to give you a list of items may not be the best thing. And so it's just a short conversation, and then we'll give you some items that you can review and help you set up your CAN so that it flows and makes sense.
Great.
And we won't, we don't charge for that. It's just, we just help you. So don't worry about that. Just ask us and we'll help you.
That's fantastic. Thank you, April. So just to add to that, the policy guidance from CDSS and Department of Healthcare Services was that we had adopted CANS tools with the minimum CANS items, being the core 50 and for child welfare, the additional 12 trauma items, but that counties might identify additional items that they wanted to add to meet their local needs. And so by working with April at the Parade Foundation to identify what those CANS items are, we can also help maintain good data quality control by using the correct version of the items to make sure that we're down the road that we're able to really utilize the data that we collect as well.
Great. We do have a bit of a follow-up to that, if you don't mind, April. If a county has their own CANs, will the order need to be changed as well?
You know, the reason that you want to match the order on the California CAN 50 and the IP CANs, this is why this is such an issue that those two items are reversed on one of the versions, is when you upload your document onto a file, it'll be way easier if the items are all in the same order. So that's why, so that's why you want to do it. Now, you don't have to do it in your EHR or your electronic platform. You can do it on the back end, so whoever downloads the file can make sure it's in the right order so it doesn't disrupt the entry of the information, because that can be hard for people to adjust to. So just make sure someone is checking to make sure they're in the right order. So when you upload into the for DHCS, that it's in the right order.
Great, thank you. Okay, Carolyn?
Okay. So next, I think if we have any further updates on CWS CARES and the release of CARES 1.1.
Hi, good afternoon, everybody. This is Stephanie Escalante. I'm in the room with Canoltra Sanchez and Kristen Broderick, and it's CWS CARES, the release of CANS 1.1. So I just want to specify that.
Thank you. That's what I was.
It's okay.
I was a little bit curious as to how that was on the agenda that way, but I was. Thank you for clarifying.
No, just so there's no confusion. But you know, we have a million acronyms, so it happens. Okay, so I'm just going to talk really high level about what is coming in CANS 1.1, which is set to be released over the weekend, and come Monday we have pilot users that will be in there using it, and then the rest of the 58 counties will be using it at the end of the month on the 25th. What it includes really is what it has done is improve the application usability of CANS in general, and it's really come a long way from what the users are currently out there using. It's going to be broken down into role-based dashboards from a supervisor, case carrying worker, and non-case carrying workers. So it breaks it down. That's based on your permissions in CWS CMS. So if you're a supervisor, when you log into CANS in CARES and you go to that dashboard, it will be at a supervisor level view where you will actually see those caseworkers that are assigned to you, and then you can drill down through their each caseworker into their CANS information, the CANS information that they are compiling on behalf of the children that are assigned in their caseload. And then there's the ability to search for and use child information from CWS CMS. Today they have to enter things manually, but tomorrow when they use this, come Monday, it will pull that information in. They will search for the child in question. That child information will come up in CARES in the CANS tool, and they will have the ability to click on that child and then proceed with adding the CANS assessment. They don't have to worry about pulling any of that demographic information in for the child, including a case number and or referral number if there is no case number. So that's a nice feature. It keeps things, it avoids error, really, is what it does, because right now they have to enter that information. And then once you're in the CANS tool and you're using it and filling out the information in the different domains, et cetera, they will have the ability to add comments at a domain level or even at an item level with each domain. They will have the ability to rate those different areas in the domain based on the child assessment. And then when they're done completing the CANS, it will compile a summary. And that summary will include strengths that the child has, any needs, and any immediate action information. So that really gives you a high-level synopsis, really, of what you need to focus on as a CFT team or moving forward, mental health worker, et cetera, that's working with that child. So that helps along that avenue. Okay. They will have, there's another option to go in and there's a change log information that is listed. So it basically provides, as if the CANS is still in progress, which can happen, you can save it and then you can go back in and complete additional information along the way before you actually submit it and lock it in. There's a change log that tells you who has been in that CANS assessment. Usually it's going to probably be, 1 to 2 people depending on how that works, but probably primarily 1. And it'll tell you when they adjusted that and who adjusted it, the time, et cetera. And then the other thing is there's the ability to delete the CANS. For whatever business reason there may be a need to delete that. And so that is there, and it's available to any user who can access CANS.
Yeah, and we're thinking of the most primary time they would likely use delete is if maybe they've entered the CANS assessment for the wrong client. So we wanted to allow the ability to remove that from the client's history. We realize that probably may not be a feature that's utilized very much. So I just wanted to give some context as to why that's even a feature.
And then last, when you print the CANS out, there is confidential information, really that's around substance abuse. And so that information actually is automatically redacted. So you don't have to go and manually take a Sharpie and black it out. When you print that CANS out, it will redact that information automatically.
And then to expedite how long this is Sinultra Sanchez again, to expedite the length of time it will take to complete the CANS assessment, we have changed the ratings to radio buttons rather than drop downs. That was another another piece of feedback that we've received from stakeholders and have incorporated that into the CANS 1.1 scope.
Any questions?
Hi, thank you, Sinultra and Stephanie. We do have one question. Can you please clarify upload within the context of the order discussion? Do you mean that the order is needed, that the scanning mechanism works for the sake of data entry? I think that probably applies to April and us as well. For the reconfiguring of the IP CANs versus the DHCS.
So this is April. I was talking about the DHCS upload because I know that they sent out a specs on the file and what order those items should be, and it's based on the order of the items in the California CAMS 50. So for behavioral health folks, that's who I was talking to. Now, in terms of the scanning, I'm going to turn that over to your folks.
Okay, so
I think.
Go ahead.
No, I was just going to mention, because we're not actively working on anything related to that here at CWDS, I was going to mention that maybe someone from from CDSS can maybe speak to that in more detail, where we're at with the scanning.
Yes, okay, so just to clarify for Lisa, it's how the scanning software will work if the CAMS is different from the upload feature. So we need to make sure that the CAMS in order is in a line for the scanning software. We'll probably read it as it's done and upload it that way into the system, so that we'll have to match. Does that sound correct? Mm-hmm. Yes? Okay. Okay. I don't see, let me take a, Chuck, are you on the line? I have you unmuted. Yes. Hi.
Yeah, I'm on the line.
I have a question for you. For counties that have their own electronic health records that they use to enter CAMS data and generate reports using CFT meetings, how do our county data submitted to through CDSS, my apologies, through CARES? I believe that's still in process for counties that have their own reporting mechanisms or that have their own systems in place.
So would you read the question one more time?
Sure. For counties that have their own electronic health records that they use to enter CAMS data and generate reports to be used in CFT meetings, how do we get our county data submitted to CDSS through CARES?
Okay, so this question really speaks to the need for sharing of CAMS between systems, and this is something that our two departments are continuing to work on, a solution to make sure that we are able to receive information and also share information between child welfare and behavioral health. At this point, we don't have an automated or technical solution, so counties would need to share that information locally and then actually enter it into for child welfare, enter it into the CWS CARES automated CAMS tool. We do see this as a very critical area, and we're definitely working to come up with a viable solution.
Okay, thank you, Lisa.
Is that it, or no other further questions for?
Not currently. We can move on, and we'll circle back.
Okay. So next, I just wanted to make sure that folks know on the agenda we do note that San Bernardino has agreed and has shared their standing order. I think this is a holdover from a prior call, and so the standing order from San Bernardino is available for you on as one of the handouts on the. And that is attached to the webinar, so you should be able to find it there. And I believe in the standing order, I think I missed the phone call where this was discussed, so I'm not sure what the standing order is specifically addressing.
It's communication between behavioral health and child welfare, the sharing of information and how they have that process developed within their county.
Fantastic. And I know that San Bernardino is not the only county that has such an order in place, so but we very much appreciate their willingness and to share their order with everybody. So hopefully that is something that folks on the call will find helpful. And then with that, I do want to take the time, though, we do have a couple of opportunities for folks on the call to, if you're in front of a computer, and we hope you are, to participate in a poll. And so we have a couple of questions for you. Let's start with the first one, which is we're just trying to understand who we have on the call today. And so if you could, were to look on your screen and you should see a question that is simply asking, what organization or discipline do you represent? And if you could just make a selection so that we can get an idea. We're just trying to get an idea about who we have on the call. We appreciate your feedback so that we can understand who we're speaking with today. We'll give folks just another second or two to lodge their vote. Okay, so we've got 80% of you have chimed in, and so we've got, looks like 45% are from child welfare, juvenile probation. We've got a few folks from foster family agency providers or resource family providers. 40% are from county behavioral health. We've got a handful of STRTP or group home providers, and 10% are specialty mental health providers, caregivers, trainers, or some other category of folks. And so thank you very much for helping us with that. And moving on, let's see. So we have, did you have some, I'm going to let Lisa Witchy.
Sure, thank you very much. So one item that came up within the Child and Family Team implementation team meeting this month was some conversation about reconciling the purpose of the CANs when it's completed by child welfare or when it's completed by behavioral health. And the issues that were identified is that there was sort of some worry about, if behavioral health happens to be taking the lead in completing a CANS, then is the result going to be more clinical in nature? Or if child welfare is taking the lead, then is it more child welfare focused, and how does that really reflect the behavioral health side? And so I thought that was a good question, good topic to bring up and to really emphasize the integrated core practice model and the real intent of the CANs to be used as a communication integration tool and an opportunity to reflect across systems and with natural supports and with the child and family to ensure that what the CANS is reflecting is the varied perspectives of everyone who is involved in that child and family's life and on the child and family team. And so that really does speak to the importance of integrated training whenever possible, so that child welfare and behavioral health, juvenile probation if they're involved, and other provider partners have a shared understanding of what the CANS is and how it's used, and how to ensure that the CANS really does reflect all of those perspectives, as well as providing a good understanding of what one another's roles are respective to informing the CANS. So I just wanted to also open that up and invite those of you who are sort of facing the same sort of worry, or maybe those of you who have worked through that, if you would be able to share how you've approached that, if there's anything that you've needed to put in place, or maybe if you've been able to provide training, cross-discipline training in your county, if you want to share your experience. If you have something to share on that topic, just raise your hand and we can unmute you. Okay. Well, while you're thinking, Lynn has something. Okay, great. Lynn, we're gonna.
She should be unmuted already.
Okay.
Hi, Lynn. Sorry, I was muted on my phone. I just wanted to make the comment that that's kind of the beauty of the cans when you get different perspectives. If you have perspectives from various professionals, as you were describing, that it shows up with whoever's compiling, the assessment information in order to complete the cans. And that would mean you'd need to get those people together, probably with the family, not necessarily with the whole team, but you need to have a discussion that can resolve that until you can get to some level of consensus to agree on the scoring for the group, if that makes sense. So that, even if you are going to say, well, let's start with the higher score, that because of your perspective of why it's so urgent, and people can't agree with that, then that's where you start, and it will change over time. The same thing is if you score it lower, score a 2 instead of a 3, if it turns out that it's more urgent than was initially thought, you're going to be able to change that in an ongoing way. But you've got to bring it out into the open so that everybody's on the same page.
Great. Thank you very much, Lynn. Looks like Shelley Paul, you are unmuted if you'd like to speak. Hi, Shelley. You may need to unmute yourself. Nope. Okay.
She needs to enter her PIN.
She needs to. Yeah. So it looks like in order to speak, you need to dial in using your audio PIN.
To send the PIN.
So we'll send you a quick email with a PIN. She's got it. Click to unmute. Okay. Click to unmute.
Click the red.
Oh. There you go. Oh.
Are you
When
there,
I went
Shelley?
when I went to take myself off mute, I accidentally hung up. I apologize.
Not a problem.
Yeah, I'm calling from San Diego County, and we've we've started 128 CANS conversations in the CFT, and we've finalized about 75 of those. And I can just share with you that it's been such a positive experience. What we're finding is that when we do this process with the families and the child and family team, they actually understand better why the case services are what they are. They have a voice in it. They get to say as well what they want. We actually haven't had any time out of all these incidences where somebody was like, no, I think it should be a 3, and everybody else thought it should be a 1. Usually we're within that action item, right? We're either at the 0, 1 or the 2 or 3. So it's been a very positive experience. We're already seeing parents get into services quicker. It used to be that parents sometimes wouldn't get into services until the court ordered this jurisdiction, right? They weren't taking advantage of those voluntary services, but that seems to be coming quicker. So we're just very excited. We think that the goal that the state had, which was that the families, if they were more involved in the process, would get involved faster, is coming to fruition.
Shelley, thank you so much for sharing. We had ourselves on mute and we were cheering. Just really want to appreciate you speaking up and sharing that experience. I wonder if you might be able to tell us a little bit about how you've approached that, because I think this is a piece that in the emails that we're getting, folks are really struggling with. How do you have this conversation about how do you integrate the CANs within the CFT process? What do those conversations look like? Is there anything that you can share with us about how you guys have prepared staff for that and how you've prepared participants and really what that looks like in a CFT?
Absolutely, and I'd be happy to share the policy. We published our policy a few weeks ago. So we started with our Pathways to Wellbeing team, so that's about 17 staff who used to do our mental health screening, and we trained them in the CANS first in September, and then they started using it in October with all of the new cases that entered the system as of October 1st. So they're doing those initial interviews, they're explaining the purpose of the CANS to the families. Sometimes they go out with the CI worker or the voluntary worker, and then they're just able to do one pre-interview with the family, which is really helpful. Then they go into the CFT, and originally I was planning to make policy about where in the CFT it would happen and what that conversation would look like, but having done now these 70, we found that it kind of happens naturally, and it's different for different families. So some of the families, it happens as they go through the 3 questions, they're just talking about it, the different, oh, that sounds like that, let's look at the CANS rating. This is what a 2 means for depression. Do you think it's a 2? So that conversation is happening throughout, and at the end they kind of summarize and make action items. Sometimes it happens under the working well, they do the strengths, and in the worries, they do the needs. So it's happening very differently, but what we found is that it's going well for all the families, and the social workers are actually enjoying it. A lot of worries about not getting the CANS done before the JD hearing, but I met with our juvenile court presiding judge and the lead attorneys, and they all agreed they'd rather have a CANS completed in the CFT and have it be submitted later than the first JD hearing, either by ex parte or at the SCO hearing, to have that collaborative process.
Thank you so much for that. I just want to call out, I heard that you guys have utilized safety organized practice. So using the 3 questions, what are we worried about, what's working well, and what do we do next? That's fantastic to hear that you guys have integrated the safety organized practice 3 questions as part of, as a tool to help identify CANS items. Thank you so much for sharing that. May I just invite others who are on the call, if you have any questions about what was just shared from Shelley. Please go ahead and enter those questions into the chat.
Hi, Shelley. Does San Diego submit a copy of the completed CANS to the court?
Yes, we do. So when I went and presented to the presiding judge, she asked if we were going to do that, and I said no, and here's why. You're going to know everything that's a 2 or a 3 because it's going to be part of the case plan. If for some reason the parents didn't agree, which we have not had happen yet, we're going to put that in the court report. And we know that this CANS assessment, this 2 pages, is really nothing in the absence of the context of the conversation. However, the judge said, no, you guys are going to attach it. So we are attaching them. I'm hoping I can revisit it in maybe 6 to 12 months and ask to stop attaching it.
Okay, fantastic. I'm looking through to see, I think that's all we have for Shelley. If if anything else, if you come up with any other questions, feel free to add them into our chat feature, and we'll do our best to answer them today. Shelley doesn't mind staying on the line. We'll keep you unmuted, and we can move on.
Sure. And Shelley, just as a very quick follow-up, I will reach out to you and ask for a copy of the policy that you mentioned you had recently published.
I'd be happy to provide it.
Oh, sorry. Thank you so much.
Okay, we just had that question come in as well, so perfect. Thank you.
And we also created a family letter. Actually, I have to give props to Eileen Quinn O'Malley, who's on the phone from Behavioral Health Services. They created a family letter to explain the CANS, and we converted it for child welfare.
Oh, fantastic. Would you be willing to share that as well?
Sure thing.
Oh, thank you so much.
And as a follow-up to that, Lisa, this is Rebecca Buckmiller with CDSS. For other of our county partners and mental health partners that have communication materials that you have already developed that you use to share information to families and other partners about CANS and CFTs,
if you don't mind sending those in to our CWS coordination mailbox. We are compiling those as part of our CFT implementation team to take a look at what folks are doing out there and start to develop some best practices and some materials to be placed on our website for distribution in the future.
Hi, this is April. Can I just say one thing, Shelley? Okay. I
Yes.
just want to say Viva la Can, Shelley. Like, it's amazing.
Love you.
Okay. Ready to move into another poll?
Okay, all right. Okay, I think we've got another poll for everybody to participate in. Next, I think our next one is about
What subject areas would you like to hear more about during these CANS technical assistance calls?
And I believe that you are able to select more than one response to this question. So click launch. Click launch. So launch. There we go. Okay. So I think that you should see the question and be able to vote. Okay, so I think that we're close to, I think that we'll give everybody another, all right, so I think a minute is about good to let folks answer, so we can go ahead and close the poll, and we'll let folks see what the results are. And so I think you can see that looks like how CANS informs case and treatment planning seems to be our big winner. So, and you know, but everything seems to have at least a portion of everybody's interest. So, we look forward to developing content for future calls, and this will help guide the direction that we take and the content that we are able to develop for future calls. So, thank you very much for your input. Okay, moving on, we were going to give a few minutes to each of our regions to and see if we have some questions from folks.
Okay, we're going to unmute all participants. So please, as a reminder, if you're not speaking, please keep yourself on mute individually, as we don't have a way to unmute people by region on this call. So we'll start. Okay, everyone should be unmuted. Okay, I'm not sure if it's not working. So we start with our northern. Is showing us unmuted? We might have to unmute people individually. We're having we tried all. It's not working. Okay, so we'll be unmuting folks individually. As we work through that, instead of going by region, those who are unmuted now, if someone has a question that they would like to start with.
Hi, this is Andrew with Orange County Behavioral Health.
Hi.
When a client turns 21, do we need to complete a discharge CANS, or do we just allow the client to turn 21 and stop?
That's a good question.
Can I answer that question? This is April.
Absolutely.
I think and Andrew. Nice to hear your voice again. I think it's, if you think about it just from a practice perspective, you kind of want to be able to understand outcome, right? So you can't do it if you don't have an end. Whether or not you need to submit that anywhere is a different question. But just from a practice perspective, you do want to be able to have that endpoint so that you can understand, you know, the full picture of what happened to that client.
That makes sense. Thank you, April.
Sure.
Yeah, thank you very much. I just want to make the connection to the integrated core practice model, and I think this really ties into the transition planning phase. And so by conducting a CANS at discharge, that would really help to inform discharge planning and making sure that the proper supports or service connections or other referrals are in place. Yeah, great. Thank you for raising that question.
Especially important when transitioning to adult systems of care. Okay. Next question.
Hi, this is Deanna. Can you hear me?
Yes, Deanna. Hi.
Hi. Hey, I just wanted to know if we could just do a brief kind of summary of just the highlighted points of either deciding to do the CANS 50 or the CANS IP. So the choice is to have alignment with the CANS IP, correct? Is that right?
Deanna, are you referring to the change in the item number that we're going to correct?
Correct. Yeah. I just wanted to have clarity on which reordering was going to occur.
It will occur on the CANS IP.
Okay, so that means that folks using the CANS 50 that they will stay the course, and then the reordering will happen on the IP.
Yeah, the reordering will happen on the integrated practice plan.
There's a lot of echo in the background. I don't know if somebody's got their phone and the computer open or. Okay, so and then also the issue around counties being able to add additional questions to their CANS tool. Is this something that's already been gone to ops, to the child or to children's?
Yeah, it's been part of our policy guidance that was released previously, and so child welfare directors are aware of that.
Okay, so, but I mean, just hasn't been a specific item at their discussion? You know, sometimes people don't read everything we're supposed to.
Right. So this was brought to our attention early on when we first decided to adopt the Core 50, because there were questions from our county partners who were working closely with their mental health partners who had more than those. And so they have been working along with April and the Foundation to try to reconcile to make sure all of them are still available. We have not required them and are not going to require them at this time, and we have not built them out into the care system yet. But we are also not we're not stopping anybody from doing more since it was already part of their business practice.
Okay, so and I'm just wondering if we might want to put a pin in that in terms of our communication work group, just to clarify that with folks, because we have staff who move from county to county, you know, supervisors and staff. So just somehow we need to work that in there from the perspective of either the training perspective or the messaging or something, just, you know, to at least make staff and supervisors aware of that flexibility, because we do have a fluid workforce, right? And
Absolutely.
Yeah, thank you. And then along those lines, then there was a lot of very interesting information coming out around the CANS 1.1 release, and I didn't actually capture the release date in my notes, so I apologize.
Sinultra, are you on and able to share the release date for the CANS 1.1 automated tool for child welfare. And Sinultra may not still be with us, so we'll follow up to provide an email to folks with that date.
Okay, all right, because I was just trying to take some notes and I was like, oh my God, I missed that whole thing. Okay, all right, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. I have a question from the inbox to read, April. This may be for you. In thinking about editing the cans, I'm wondering if the ASIS section could be moved to the front page. It's been a little confusing for workers to go from answering questions about the child, then the caregivers, and then back to the child for the ASIS.
Thanks for that question. And originally it was in the front. It was moved to the end so that was easier to understand on the child welfare version. So when they put it into CARES, it made more sense. So that was an accommodation for how it's put into CARES. Yeah, I was asked to do that when they started building it out. So that's why it's like that. So if you look at the early childhood module, it starts with the trauma exposures. Now, having said that, please remember that you don't go through the cans in the same way that it's ordered on that sheet of paper, and I'm sure you know that, but it is a little bit difficult when you're just filling it out to switch your head from going from child to caregiver to child. And then also it's hard to go from needs to strengths to needs. So it takes a minute to get used to it.
Hello there, this is Sinultra. I think I'm unmuted now. I was trying to address the question a few moments ago about the
Thank you, Sinultra.
Hi. So on this Saturday, the 9th, we plan to release the 1.1 cans to production. So counties, our core counties that we are piloting with will see it on Monday morning. When they go in the office, and then we will have it released with those pilot programs, and then it'll go statewide on the 25th of February.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. Do we have any other folks on the line? A reminder, if you don't have a question or speaking, please put yourself on mute. We're having a little bit of feedback.
Hi, this is Kari Cannon from Calaveras County.
Oh, hi, Kari. Just saw your question here. Great.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure that it was seen. I don't know if you want me to bring it up or not.
Sure, go ahead, and if you want to go ahead and share so that I understand. I can read it, but I think it's probably better coming from
Yeah. So what we're finding in doing our cans, and I do most of the data entry on them, when we're getting CANS 50 from behavioral health, and then we have a CANS IP, so first, I have two questions actually. The first one is, do we, on the child welfare side, would I be entering the behavioral health scores into CARES for data? Hello?
Behavioral health. You're talking about the behavioral health items for that.
Yeah.
domain?
So we're supposed to be entering CANS data into CARES.
Right.
So behavioral health is sharing their CANS with us, and then we share. If we do CANS first before they do CANS on their end with a mutually shared youth. So basically, when I get behavioral health CANS 50, am I supposed to be entering that data into CARES for them? Because they don't have access to that.
So I think you're saying, or I think I'm hearing that you receive a CANS that's been completed by behavioral health, and you're wondering if you should enter that into the CWS CARES CANS online tool, right?
Correct.
Okay, and I would say that you would want to enter it in after, it should reflect all of the perspectives that we talked about earlier. So as long as the CANs that you're working with is a shared CANs, right?
It's not.
So that it reflects, okay, so the CANs
so
really should.
Yeah, it sounds like we have to have a meeting across systems. Because
Yeah.
our scores are different than behavioral health scores, we're finding, and it's frustrating because we're like, how are we supposed to fix this? So it sounds like we need to have like a development team meeting when we do these CANs and all come together, come up with a mutually shared score with the family.
Yeah, ideally the CANs is reflective. It should be reflective of all of the professionals and the natural supports, the members on the child and family team, including the child and the family. So it should represent child welfare and behavioral health and the child and family and those other folks who are important to them. And so
I guess
if one agency is taking sort of the lead role, then part of their responsibility is making sure that they've gathered all of those perspectives and integrated that into the CAN.
And that's fine.
Have a conversation at the local level to work through that.
Okay, so the situation is we have an engager on the child welfare side, and she goes out and she meets with the family, and she meets with the child. So then behavioral health sends over their CAN on on the same client, and the scores are off, like significantly. So we're kind of wondering, how are they getting to these scores? Because they meet with the family. Somebody brings the kid in for behavioral health assessment, and apparently they're doing the CANs then.
Yeah.
So
what I'm hearing is that more than one CANs is being completed. And so that's definitely something that you'd want to have some conversations about locally to make sure that we have a single CAN happening for that child and family, and that the information is reflective of all of the parties.
Okay. All right. Sounds like we need to have another meeting then.
So let me just add to what Lisa said. Another thing that you can think about is if there's a CAN started, regardless of which side, then the other side can also take that CANs as a place to start and make sure that they understand what's happening and add to that story if they need to. So if behavioral health starts the CANs and it comes over to the child welfare side, you shouldn't do a new one. You should ask for theirs and then update it, right?
Well, yeah, and that's kind of what happened. So we received one from behavioral health first because we didn't get it done on our side first, which is fine. We got it from them. We're looking at the scoring, and we know stuff on our end that's going on with the kiddo currently that wasn't going on at the time when they did the intake.
Right.
So,
that's fine.
So information changed.
That's fine, right? You're updating it.
Okay. All right.
So update it, and then that's the new one, right? So that there's always only one. Yeah.
Okay. That makes sense. All right. Thank you. Thank you for your patience with this.
Sure.
Yeah. Okay, and I want to thank everybody for their time and for your patience. Sorry we didn't get to your question, but we are at time. We're actually a little bit over, and we've got folks also waiting for the room that we are sitting in currently here in Sacramento. And so I want to thank everybody for their time and say that we will talk to you next time, and we look forward to that.
So questions that were not answered, we're going to take them back internally and develop responses either individually or for those that take a little longer in research and formulating of answers, we'll share out during our next call. Thank you, everybody. Have a great afternoon. Bye-bye.
Bye.